All right, let's get right into it. We're going to look at what might just be the Bible's greatest and maybe most overlooked project management manual. And now, forget dusty old scrolls for a second. I want you to think of the book of Nehemiah as the ultimate blueprint for making a comeback after a catastrophic failure.
So why this book? Because it lays out the exact plan for rebuilding the entire ruined wall of Jerusalem in just 52 days. I mean, think about that, 52 days. That is an absolutely insane turnaround. And in this explainer, we're going to unpack that blueprint step by step for anyone who's facing their own modern-day comeback.
But here's the paradox, and honestly, it's the core of the entire strategy. That incredible speed, it had nothing to do with rushing. Nope, it was all about the quality of the initial assessment. And it starts with this profound, kind of counterintuitive idea. True recovery doesn't start with a plan. It starts with processing the pain.
Which brings us to the big question, right? How can this ancient story give us a practical, step-by-step framework, especially for high performers, traders, anyone who needs to bounce back from a major setback? Well, let's break it down.
Okay, phase 1. This is the hardest part, and it's where most people, honestly, they fail before they even start. It's not about making a new plan or jumping back into action. It's all about a brutally honest assessment of the damage.
Just look at the direct parallel here. When Nehemiah gets the news that his city's wall is in ruins, what does he do? He doesn't start barking orders or making a to-do list. He sits down and he weeps for days. Then he gets on a horse and rides out at night, in secret, to look at every single broken, burned-down section of that wall. For a trader, that's the equivalent of sitting with a huge loss, really feeling it, instead of jumping into a revenge trade. And then it's doing that full, private audit of your journal, especially the trades you're most embarrassed by.
And that's the whole point. You have to let the failure actually land. You've got to let that blown-up account, that broken system, you've got to let it break you just a little bit before you even think about planning the fix. And look, this isn't about being weak. This is intelligence gathering. So here's the protocol. Step 1 is the Nehemiah pause. After a big hit, you fast from the platform. You just step away completely. Step 2, you go on the night ride. That means a deep, deep dive into your journal. You look at every single rule you broke, every mistake you made. And that leads to step 3, clarity. Because it's only from that honest, kind of painful assessment that a truly smart plan can actually emerge. All right, so once that damage is fully assessed, and I mean fully, it's time to launch the vision. This next phase is all about getting crystal clear on a new direction and then committing to it.
I mean, think about this moment. Nehemiah is standing in front of the most powerful man in the world, the king, and the king asks him, "So, what do you want?" And in that split second, Nehemiah sends up what the source calls an arrow prayer, just a quick, focused moment of clarity. For a trader, that's your deliberate pause right before you click the mouse. That quick check, is this set up right? Is my head on straight? And then bam, he states the vision with total clarity. Not, hey, we should probably do something about the wall. No, it's, come, let us build the wall.
And you know what happens the second you commit to something big, right? The mockers show up. And that includes your own internal doubt, your own inner critic, and yeah, probably other people too. Nehemiah's response here is just a masterclass. He doesn't argue, he doesn't justify his plan, he just states his conviction, and then tells them, you have no portion here. He draws a hard boundary.
So the takeaway here is really simple. Name the problem in your trading without any sugarcoating. State your new goal with specific, measurable outcomes, and have your answer ready for that voice, internal or external, that says you can't do it. You don't engage, you just build.
Okay, the vision is set. You're committed. Now comes the really hard part, execution. This is the phase where the work actually gets done, but, and this is key, it happens under constant threat.
And there are two amazing principles at play here. First, Nehemiah tells everyone to build the part of the wall that's right in front of their own house. The lesson? You have to fix the part of your trading that is your direct responsibility, your discipline, your psychology. Nobody else can do that for you. And second, he armed them. They built with a trowel in one hand to do the work and a sword in the other to defend themselves. You have to build your system while actively defending your capital at the very same time.
And this is what we call the trowel and sword principle. It means that building and defending, productivity and vigilance, they aren't opposites. You don't get to choose one or the other. They are partners. You can't put down your risk management to focus on development, and you can't stop developing because you're scared. They have to happen together.
So what does this actually look like for you? Well, Your trowel is the daily grind. It's the journaling, studying your charts, executing your plan with discipline. And your sword? That's your defense. It's your hard stops, your position sizing, your psychological check-ins, your accountability partner. The rule is simple. You never, ever put one down.
All right, now for the final push. Getting a big project over the finish line is its own unique challenge because it's the moment you are most vulnerable to a very specific kind of attack, distraction. So get this, the wall is almost done. Victory is right there, and at that exact moment, the enemy completely changes tactics. No more direct attacks. Instead, they send him 4 separate invitations to come have a meeting. You see, it's the reasonable-sounding distraction that is often the most dangerous.
And Nehemiah's answer, man, it's one of the most powerful statements on focus ever recorded. He just says, I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. That's it. That should be a mantra for anyone who's tempted by a new, shiny strategy, or a pointless argument on Twitter, or literally anything that tries to pull you away from finishing the one thing that actually matters.
And the result of that focus? The wall was finished. And when the enemies finally saw it, they didn't just give up. The text says they fell greatly in their own esteem. A finished project is the most powerful argument you will ever make. It silences the critics, both internal and external, in a way that no debate ever could.
So, the protocol for this final phase is crystal clear. First, you have to identify your one great work. What's the single project that needs to get done? Second, you adopt Nehemiah's answer as your own for everything else that comes up. And third, you have to trust that just finishing the work is the only statement that truly matters in the end.
But wait, because the story doesn't actually end when the wall is finished. In fact, you could argue that what happens next is the most important part of the entire blueprint. It's all about what you do after the project is complete.
They didn't throw a huge party. They didn't immediately start looking for a new project. The very first thing they did was gather everyone together and have someone read from their foundational text, their core principles. And why? Because the wall was never the point. The wall was only ever built to protect the principles. For a trader, your system rebuild is great, but it's only there to protect your core trading plan.
And this final ritual they performed has 4 really distinct parts. First, they wept. They acknowledged the gap between their principles and how they had actually been living. Then, they celebrated the progress they had just made. After that, they confessed their specific failures, taking ownership. And finally, they signed a new covenant, recommitting to their principles in writing. This is the post-project review that makes the new structure actually last.
So, we end on this. The wall you just built, that new discipline, that refined system, it's finished. And that's an amazing achievement, seriously. But it was only ever built to protect the blueprint. So, the real question is, when was the last time you actually read yours?